Picture an animal so large that, if it were alive today, no land predator on Earth could stand next to it without immediately feeling outmatched. Not a dinosaur, not a dragon, not a myth, a mammal, a real one, an animal that walked this planet around 45 million years ago, dominated its environment, and then vanished so completely that we're still arguing about what it even was, because all we have left of it is a single skull. No skeleton, no limbs, no spine, no tail, just a massive head pulled from the rock like a warning from a forgotten world. This animal had a name, Andrewsarchus, and nature didn't just let it go extinct, nature erased it. Imagine you're standing in a museum, staring at a skull nearly 3 feet long. That's longer than your torso, longer than a lion's entire head and neck combined. This skull didn't belong to a dinosaur, even though it looks like it should have. It didn't belong to a reptile. It didn't belong to anything alive today. It belonged to a mammal so large that paleontologists originally called it the largest meat-eating mammal to ever walk on land. And the scariest part? That claim might still be true, or it might be completely wrong, because Andrewsarchus is one of the most mysterious animals ever discovered. The story begins in 1923. An expedition was traveling through Inner Mongolia, exploring layers of rock left behind by the ancient Eocene world. Back then, this place wasn't dry or harsh. It was warm, humid, coastal, a place where forests met shallow seas, and massive animals roamed shorelines that no longer exist. That's where the skull was found. When scientists uncovered it, they immediately knew this wasn't normal. The proportions were off. The snout was too long. The teeth were too numerous. The skull was too big to belong to anything they'd ever seen. The paleontologist who described it called it, word for word, the superb skull of a gigantic beast. And that wasn't poetic language. That was professional shock. From that skull alone, scientists began reconstructing the animal. And the estimates were terrifying. Andrewsarchus may have been over 12 feet long. It may have stood around 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Its weight estimates range from around 600 kilograms to over 1,000. That puts it in the same category as a rhinoceros or a hippo, except this thing had a mouth full of teeth, which is why, for decades, Andrewsarchus was painted as a nightmare predator. Illustrations showed it towering over prey. Documentaries portrayed it ripping apart carcasses. Books described it as a wolf-like super carnivore, ruling the Eocene coastline like a mammalian tyrant. The idea was simple. Big skull equals big killer. Except nature is never that simple. Because when scientists stopped looking at the size and started looking at the details, the monster began to fall apart. Let's talk about the teeth. If Andrewsarchus were truly an apex predator, you'd expect razor-sharp slicing teeth. You'd expect blade-like carnassials designed to shear flesh cleanly. You'd expect massive canines for gripping and killing. That's not what they saw. Instead, Andrewsarchus had blunt, rounded teeth, wrinkled crowns, teeth better suited for crushing than slicing, more similar to the teeth of pigs, bears, or hippos than wolves or big cats. That alone raised eyebrows, but the real problem was the jaw. Predators that kill large prey need massive jaw muscles. Those muscles leave clear marks on the skull. Large crests, deep attachment points, thick bone reinforcement. Andrewsarchus didn't have those. Its sagittal crest, the ridge where jaw muscles attach, was surprisingly small, smaller than you'd expect from a predator of its supposed size. Some studies suggest its bite force may have been weaker than a modern wolf's. That's a problem, because a 1,000-kilogram predator with a weak bite doesn't make sense, unless it wasn't really a predator. This is where the story gets uncomfortable, because one of the leading theories today is that Andrewsarchus wasn't a fearless hunter chasing prey across open land. It may have been something far more common: a scavenger, an opportunist, a creature that survived not by killing everything it encountered, but by being too big to challenge. Imagine a massive animal roaming ancient coastlines, not sprinting, not ambushing, but walking slowly, confidently toward carcasses left behind by the ocean. Dead whales, sea turtles, large marine animals washed ashore by tides, anything already dead, already weakened, already broken. Andrewsarchus wouldn't need speed. It wouldn't need precision. It would just need size. And size alone is a terrifying weapon. If you're a smaller predator and a creature the size of a hippo with a mouth full of crushing teeth walks toward your kill, you leave. Not because it's faster, not because it's smarter, but because fighting it isn't worth the risk. Andrewsarchus may have ruled its world through intimidation alone, which in some ways is more unsettling than a clean hunter, because it means this animal didn't earn its dominance through skill. Nature simply handed it the advantage, and that's a pattern you see over and over again in evolution. The skull itself only deepens the mystery. The front of the snout is long and narrow, ending in a strange circular arrangement of teeth known as a rosette. That kind of structure is rare in mammals. It's more common in crocodiles and fish-eating dinosaurs. The eyes are set far back on the skull, giving it a wide field of view, but poor depth perception. The proportions don't match wolves. They don't match cats. They don't match bears. It's a skull that seems to belong to an animal from another branch of evolution entirely. And that's because it does. For years, Andrewsarchus was classified as a mesonychid, a group of early carnivorous mammals often described as wolf-like predators. That classification stuck. It shaped how the animal was reconstructed. It shaped how it was portrayed. It shaped the entire myth. And it was wrong. Modern analysis places Andrewsarchus somewhere very different, among even-toed ungulates, the same group that includes pigs, deer, hippos, and whales. Yes, whales. Let that sink in. This supposed super predator wasn't closely related to wolves or cats. It was closer to pigs, closer to hippos, and distantly closer to whales, which means Andrewsarchus wasn't a giant wolf. It was something more disturbing, a hooved mammal with a predator's skull, a land-dwelling relative of ocean giants. A kind of failed experiment in mammalian evolution, something that shouldn't exist, but did. Picture it. A creature with hooved feet, built like a tank, with a head designed to crush, not slice. Not elegant, not efficient, just massive, just unstoppable. And here's the cruelest part of the story. We don't know what its body actually looked like. All reconstructions are educated guesses, because in over 100 years of searching, no other bones have been found. Not a leg, not a rib, not a vertebra, nothing, which means Andrewsarchus might be one of the rarest large mammals to ever exist, or it lived in an environment where fossilization was unlikely, or its remains were destroyed. We don't know. And that uncertainty makes it worse. Then, without warning, it disappears from the fossil record. No gradual decline, no transitional forms, no descendants. It simply stops existing. And the reason wasn't competition. It wasn't outmatched in combat. It wasn't hunted to extinction. The world changed. During the late Eocene, Earth underwent massive shifts. Continents collided. Seas receded. The warm coastal environments Andrewsarchus relied on vanished. Forests shrank. Deserts spread. The grocery store closed. Andrewsarchus didn't adapt. It didn't shrink. It didn't diversify. It died out. Nature didn't fight it. Nature didn't care. Nature just rewrote the map. And that's the part people don't like to think about. This wasn't a weak animal. This wasn't a failure. This was a dominant species perfectly adapted to its environment. Until that environment stopped existing. That's all it takes. No asteroid, no apocalypse, just slow, inevitable change. Today, Andrewsarchus exists only as a skull locked behind glass. It appears in documentaries, in video games, in online debates where people argue about its size, its diet, its behavior. Some portray it as a hyper-predator, others as a giant pig-hyena hybrid. Some call it a land whale, others call it evolution's mistake. All of them are guessing, because the truth died with the animal. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. Nature once built something massive, powerful, and terrifying, something that dominated its world, and then erased it so thoroughly that we can't even agree on what it was. No legacy, no warning, just absence. And if that doesn't make you uneasy, it should, because the Earth has done this before, and it will do it again.